Metal Gear Rising was first hinted after the release of Metal Gear Solid 4. It was originally meant to be an intraquel that showed Raiden's transformation between Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 4. It was later cancelled because Kojima Productions could not successfully design this particularly new cut-at-will gameplay mechanic. They did, however, fully develop the stories and in-game scenarios. Kojima later passed the title to Platinum Games. They soon discarded the stealth as a main element and made it into a high-speed hack-and-slash. With that, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance became the lightning bolt action game we see now. Enough of the history. Metal Gear Rising is not Metal Gear Solid, it's a spin-off. The gameplay, as we know, is a huge leap away from the stealth Metal Gear is known for. No more emphasis on guns and silence, rather now it's swordplay and slicing. Speed and reflex is key, not slow and steady. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance could be a great spin-off of a successfully altered game of Metal Gear Solid, with the ninja we saw as a whiny teen. Could also be another stereotyped subpar Japanese video game. Let me take a slice at this reviewing thing. Many early gameplay demos of Revengeance showed the world as being very clear and colorful. The current game looks nice, but many of the levels at the beginning of the game seem to have a very brown and gray tone to them, barely adding vibrance as the game progresses. The game environment does break into some neat looking scenery, but it's not gorgeous. The rendered characters and cutscenes look very nice, seeing as they're at least half the game. But hey, the story is still by Kojima Productions, and they always set a large emphasis on that story, which will be discussed soon. Most of the objects in this game are sliceable, and when you decide to start slicing everything up like a lettuce, you'll understand how cool it looks. All those sliced objects will disappear quite fast, but I can understand with this generation of consoles. Overall, Metal Gear Rising appears visually alright, but not as good as I perceived earlier.
How does it feel to fly like a bird?
Like a bird strapped to a remote control rocket.
Metal Gear games have always had grand, beautiful, and hectic musical scores. Metal Gear Rising also takes a leap in terms of this. It's more like making it sound like some bad copyrighted music down made for Crush 40. Excuse me. Although the instrumentals are quite decent, many musical vocals can be turned off. I feel like lyrical music of any kind fits best with driving and shooting games, or just at the credits. I will say though, the instrumentals are pretty good for this game to have fast, chaotic music. But please, oust with the vocals. Now don't quote me on this, but I've read somewhere that Metal Gear-ish games have always had a large influence from Japanese kabuki theater. That must be why the Metal Gear games always felt a little odd in terms of the characters. It could also just be the influence from Japanese anime. I will settle with Metal Gear as having its own vibe. Revengeance is no different in this aspect. Some of the actual American characters act, let's say, a little more realistically than others. The enemy characters act a little ridiculous and way over the top. I won't criticize that, but I'll take into account the addition of a lot of profanity. I am in no way averted to it, but it is just so out of place. It only seems to remotely work for Raiden, who's been through the worst in life and doesn't act so insane until his Jack the Ripper persona emerges. And even in that act, the profanity still feels more in place. Revengeance has over-the-top characters with more so than the other past Metal Gear games had. As for the storyline, it's subpar at best. The main concept is about Raiden trying to prevent this corporation that is taking third world country children's brains and training them in advanced VR to become super genocidal cyborgs. These cyborgs would then become killers, causing war to break out, and then reviving the dead war economy that Snake destroyed in the last game. In short, it's about super cyborg bodies. There, see? It's a little out there, even for Metal Gear. The one thing the story does well is visually still keeps your interest. Metal Gear Rising even makes some references to Raiden's past, along with many tongue-in-cheek recalls of the main series. The game still contains the codec sequences that drag on a bit, but most of the characters do have something interesting to say both for the game and even our reality. Metal Gear Rising is decent writing with over-the-dramatic characters, but manages to keep you into it. This game does another alright job in terms of the narrative.
Shit, not again.
The gameplay of Metal Gear Rising is not stealth, but more of a button-mashy hack-and-slash. The general game feels like a mix of Devil May Cry and God of War. For a Metal Gear game, it still contains very intense action sequences, but like 10 times more chaotic. It also has those quick time events. Don't worry, they're present like any other hack and slash game, but not in overabundance. Unfortunately, there still is a sliver of stealth, and it just does not work well at all. There was absolutely no need to keep any amount of stealth in this game, you guys. Revengeance is a hard game. It's a really goddamn hard game. It is almost impossible not to get hit during any fighting scene, not to mention the boss battles. The game is about 8 hours in gameplay time, not counting the cutscenes. I'm around 7 and 51 minutes, but that's close enough. That may sound bad, but for this game it works really well because it's hard enough to want to get that 100% S ranking. For a short story, you will spend many hours in the full completion of the game, along with many unique VR missions too. Timing and timing alone will keep you alive in this world. There is no forever blocking system like in most games, rather a wait for the right parry to strike. You cannot dodge, which is also really bad, seeing as not every enemy's attack is blockable. It's hard, but oh so satisfying, especially to slice the enemies into a million pieces. And to precisely cut into anything in this game, you need to go into what is called Blade Mode. To coincide with the difficulty of this game, you can't just willy-nilly hack every guy up you see. Most of enemies take a number of hits that will then allow you to go into Blade Mode and cut through them. When this mode is activated at the right time, you can cut for a target that will allow Raiden to snatch the cyborg's energy source to regain full power. This is known in the game as Zandatsu, or Cut and Take. Adding even more to this great risk and reward system are the challenging boss battles. One is based off speed, one can split off segments of his body to avoid your blade, and you've probably seen the rest. The boss variety and challenge is quite aggravating and yet again so rewarding to beat. The game also has a running system called Ninja Run. You can run with great speed and vault over any short object or obstacle, which adds to the intensity with exhilarating running sequences. The game also has a small upgrading system that will allow an extension of Raiden's cyborg body and usage of boss weapons. The overall gameplay is very fresh, very hard, and very rewarding. It is by far the strongest aspect of the game and saved it for me in so many ways. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is only part of Metal Gear by name and story, with only a touch of the useless stealth. By itself, it's a God of War action game with amazingly fresh and fun gameplay. It also has bountiful amount of story references and undertones with bizarre characters. Set in a bland and not so realistic setting, this game does keep your interest through the entire story to warrant a replay. It is very challenging to play, but if you enjoy it enough and develop the motivation for the major risk and reward, you'll have many hours of this game to earn that 100% S completion. If you want to try it, just get a 2-night rental, you'll beat it on easy for sure. If you want to feel good about defeating such a hard game, you should buy it. I do suggest waiting for a price drop though, seeing as it costs a full $60. Everything about this game except the side story interest and gameplay are just okay. It's short, difficult, dramatic, frustrating, reflex stimulating, and however you cut the cake, it earns a 4.5 out of 6 eggs.